Okay, ladies and gents, just gents. The next session was actually scheduled to be Connor Bartlett from Compare My Move, but unfortunately he wasn't able to attend today. So Grahame from Renault Trucks has very, very kindly stepped in at the 11th hour. And he's going to be talking to us today about how the future looks for zero emissions vehicles. Grahame has 42 years of experience in commercial vehicles, so he really knows his stuff. So this is obviously a developing subject. So I'm going to hand you over to the man who knows.
Right, are we on? Yay! Right, okay. Welcome, everyone. My name's Grahame Neagus. I'm head of LCV and Municipal here at Renault Trucks. I'm going to go through with you zero emission removals. Quite an interesting topic for everyone here today. See if I can do that. Right. So the fact of the matter is that the removal industry is continually evolving, but I think the next 5 years, as with all industry sectors, will see quite some dramatic changes as we all transition to zero emissions. The fact of the matter is that it's not just good for us, it's good for the environment, but it's also good for our customers. And there's huge amounts of changes happening, not just here in the UK, but all across Europe as well. So let's just look at a couple of customer trends, because you can't actually decarbonise without understanding what the customer trends are. These are information that those in the removals industry will know and be very familiar with. But the fact of the matter is a lot of removals are now done in a very much local scale. You can see there quite easily that the majority are in a very confined distance. Now, looking at new housing forecasts, obviously, as far as the housing forecasts are concerned, there is against the backdrop of the 1.2 million government target. But I think it's fair to say that after a couple of years in the doldrums, 2026 onwards is looking a lot more positive. And that's really underlined by people like Savills and their outlook. Now, why is this important for me talking to you about decarbonisation? Well, simply put, a lot of people have not gone down the electric route because they're worried about range. However, this industry sector, as you've seen previously, is actually moving their goods and services in a very much more localised area. So that means that the transition from ICE, diesel engine, into EV is now becoming a reality. And it's all about the understanding. There's a very important fact here that we as Renault Trucks have learned, and that is just around about 80% of movements and operators that are doing so with a typical 18-ton 4x2 could actually transfer to EV today. So, you know, it's very important to know that there is no adverse impact on. And also, as we move further upscale into tractor units and beneath vans, 75% of all van journeys can now be done with an EV. So, whether it is ICE or EV, decarbonisation is more than feasible today. And it is all around this urban jungle on how we move forward. Doesn't matter where you are within Europe, it's all about creating what we call the good city. And the good city is this sustainable city where electromobility forms part of that. And of course, from a removals perspective, even though if people aren't doing residential moves, office moves are actually still taking place within. If you look at the map that is looking forward in terms of those towns and cities which will have low congestion zones or low emission zones, these are getting greater and greater. Now, because they're getting greater and greater, those that are not in the latest technology may find getting entry into these places more and more difficult. And we've noticed that with places like Oxford already, So it's about future-proofing your business. So let's just look at a few vehicle trends as we speak. This picture is quite interesting. This is a customer of ours who has both electric 3.5 tonners and electric HGVs as well, but I'll move into that for you. So the platform cab, we have one of our dealers, All Ports Group, with us down the bottom of the hall. They have a couple of these vehicles on display, one electric, one diesel. Classic case for the removals industry, very popular, 24 cubic meter, and now giving you a range anywhere between 250 and 285 miles, so very good. 4x2 rigid, I've got an example behind me here, different cab, but this type of vehicle is now gaining traction within the marketplace for more regional use, and 6x2 either as a drawbar or as a standard rigid. And again here we're looking not just at a fixed body but also as a demount body. And of course the tractor units now up to 44 tons available as electric. So as you can see, things are moving on. However, there are barriers to change, and we're all human, and that is one of the challenges, because people don't like change. It is a very complex thing, but there is this what we call friction of change, where people are very keen to go, well, it won't work for me, I'll let someone else be the guinea pig. This isn't the case, and pure regulatory influence won't force the change. People have got to come along. And our clients, everyone's clients, doesn't matter which badge you're in, really fall into three camps. There is the interested, there is the bystander, and there is obviously the believer. And from an OEM's perspective, my challenge, my colleagues' challenge, is to bring every one of those along on the journey. One of the things that people always say is, no, they're too expensive, total cost of ownership won't work for me. However, a number of years on from when we first introduced these vehicles back in 2013, I can now tell you that our light commercial vehicle now has better than cost parity with diesel, i.e. it's cheaper to run an electric master than it is a diesel. And even on the heavy duty truck, the 6x2s, and I'll show this to you in a minute, they are also cost parity. So this is a typical 3.5 ton Luton, take 20,000 kilometers over 5 years. You run one of those vehicles versus a diesel, you will save over £4,500 over those 5 years. And that's everything. That's from the vehicle, the maintenance, the fuel that you put in it, and even that includes putting the charge point in at your location. But more than that, you'll save nearly 19 tons of CO2 over that period. Looking at the 26 tonner, even more so. Now, you tend to run these vehicles over a slightly longer period, and obviously over a longer mileage. But if you're doing 100,000 clicks, 62,000 miles, and you're running it for 8 years, and bearing in mind that with our batteries you get a 10-year now warranty on the battery, you're going to save yourself over 40 grand. And immediately people are always attracted to the front end price and say, oh, it's hideous expensive, but actually look at the TCO with the maintenance and you will save a huge amount of CO2 in the process. So just want to give you a quick overview of this. This is what we call the go-to vehicle on our range. A couple of key facts about it. That very vehicle is at the top of the hall on the all-port stand. I'm not going to go through all of that, but basically it's 3.5 tons or 4 tons. The one up there, see in the picture, is 4 tons. It's got class-leading energy consumption, which actually gives us a really good range on that vehicle. And being a platform cab with a good sized body, easy to get in and out of, and absolutely ideal for the rental market. When you actually compare it against the main brands, we're getting the best mileage in terms of range against our competitors. The reason now, put that into well, what does it mean monetarily? If you have a customer that was a Mercedes, a Ford, or even a Maxus, actually the efficiency that we get out of the battery and the engine motor itself, it's just sipping 22 kilowatts per 100 kilometers traveled. You can see the savings there over a 4-year period. So even if you are roughly the same price as one of those competitors, at the end of your 4 years, you're going to be better off. Super fast charging speed. Previous models used to have the issue of, well, it's going to take me 7 hours to charge it up. Not anymore. Reason being, we have the fastest charge rate of a 3.5, 4-tonner on the market. DC charging, 130 kilowatt hour, 45 minutes, you'll have that vehicle recharged and ready to go again. Now, a little bit of an interesting one here. If you are like me and have a 28-inch inside leg, getting up and down a commercial vehicle can be a bit of a chore. Not with our product, because our product is a front-wheel drive product, and that means, unlike the main competitors that we face who are rear-wheel drive, floor height, and if you go over to the all-port stand and have a look at that vehicle, you will see in and out is an absolute doddle. So that's good for your drivers. If you look at the other end of the scale, the 26-tonner, again, our latest product, running up to 44 tons as a drawbar rig. You can actually have up to 6 batteries on that, producing 780 horsepower, and that will give you around about 360 kilometers, which is about 220-mile range. However, on that vehicle, you can charge at 250 kilowatts per hour. So what I'm saying is, do we, as an industry, as a sector, alter our thinking for a better tomorrow? So I'm going to take that 26-tonner and I'm just going to throw this out there. As a lot of people think of a big electric vehicle, it won't go as far. Go back to some of my earlier slides and think how far the removals industry is traveling. That circle is from where we are today, Leamington Spa, and that is the radius of 220 miles from here. 220 miles, if you're an operator with one of those vehicles, electric, you can actually get to Dover, yes, because it's only 184 miles. Exeter, yes. Swansea, yes. Great Yarmouth, and if you're careful, Carlisle. So the idea that these vehicles can't go very far is a bit of a fallacy. Yes, if you go to the outer extremities of that, you will need to have a charge to get back. However, just think of it like this. The average speed from a standing start to when you're going is probably around about 48 to 50 miles an hour, even if you're on a dual carriageway or motorway, because you're limited to 56 anyway. You're only going to do the best part of 220 miles before your driver needs to take his or her legal break. If you plan it that where you have your driver has their break and you have a DC fast charge, you can get enough energy back into the batteries to then carry on. The other thing that I'm going to suggest here is this would be very good for vehicles at opposing ends of the country with a removals company, meeting halfway, do a body swap on the drawbar demount system, and then carry back on again to fulfill the journey. This is a real world example. We already have a number of these vehicles, both drawbar and tractor unit out in the country with many household names. This is a real-world example. This is Expert Logistics. They are running from their RDC in Bradford every day down to the Birmingham NEC. They depart fully charged. They come all the way down from Bradford to the NEC, not far from here. They get to the NEC, they drop the trailer, they charge for 1 hour. They have a system where that trailer is taken away and another trailer is brought back. In that hour, they then hitch up and then return back to Bradford. Years ago, people going, well, that would never ever work on an electric vehicle. That's proof that a normal 44-ton operation, Arctic operation, actually works today. And for every time that they're doing that, at an average cost of 39 pence per kilowatt, they are saving every trip £40 in fuel alone. So that just gives you a real idea that it does work. So as I said previously, one of the possible solutions that the removals industry may have, and I'm not saying this is right, wrong, but it's certainly something it is very achievable, and we know people are doing this, is you could have that very vehicle today with a demount system on it, running with a trailer, run at 44 tons. You can do your 360 kilometers on it. You can actually take the bodies off, go on to two other bodies that, that are going in the opposite direction. So you don't have to take this all the way to Scotland. You could meet your partner halfway, do a swap over, and then go back to your relevant bases. Might not be the norm today, but it might just be the norm tomorrow in order to do what you do. But go back to my original slides, the number of occasions that actually happens within the removal sector is relatively small as a percentage. One of the other things that we are always speaking to people about is their reticence to jump. They want to see other people. There are lots of other people, and my penultimate slide will prove that. There are lots of other people doing this, but still people are resistant to change. Well, I'm delighted to say behind me we have a Vitelis vehicle. We have what we call is the EV Discovery Programme. So no, you don't have to go and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on a bespoke rig. You can actually take one of our vehicles on the EV Discovery Programme and you run it for 6, 9 or 12 months. We put in a charger for you. You can choose the vehicle that you want, whether that's a 6x2 or 4x2. You run it, we do all the training with you, you run it for that period, you have all the telematics data, and you work out whether or not this really does work. About 80% of the people that go through that program end up buying because it does work. But it's a great way of dipping your toe in the water and having it as your own R&D product. Now, other people say, driver reaction will be absolutely awful, they won't want to do it, etc., etc. Well, it's a load of rubbish, to be quite honest, because out of all the hundreds of drivers that have gone through and drive electric vehicles today, the driver feedback is overwhelmingly positive, whether it's van or indeed truck. I'm not going to go through all of that, but noise, the serenity of the cab, the smoothness of the ride are all things that people come back and say is absolutely great. Weather and topographical. If you think that vehicles don't operate in the cold, absolute rubbish again. This vehicle actually is one that we took last year. We drove from Lyon up to Lapland and called in at Father Christmas when we got up there. But it just shows that in this sort of weather conditions, we do a lot of testing because we're part of the Volvo group. So it is really something that from a climatic perspective, we again are trying to reassure people that these things do work in the cold as well as in the summer. So what we say to people is, please, please, please don't focus on the negative. look at the percentage of your fleet today that will work. And maybe you say, I'm keeping all my trucks diesel, but actually, because of my more local removals, I could do with a master platform cab, electric, bobbing in and out of London or Manchester or Glasgow, Edinburgh, wherever you are. So what I would say is, when you go back, sit down, speak with your team, and just look at which part of your business could be changed, because I think you'll be surprised. Now, for us as a major OEM, we support you in this transition, and we don't charge for this, but we have back at Warwick, where I'm based, our own team of EV experts within their own department. And these guys and girls are there to help you through the whole decarbonisation wheel, whether that is in terms of how can I reach my targets, understanding of what your expectations are as a business and what your goals are, not today, not tomorrow, but probably over the next 5 to 10 years. We do a lot of fleet analysis as well. We've spent years in developing programs that actually understand our vehicles, so we're not expecting people to jump and take our word for it in a glossy brochure. This is evidence that we will give, and we will take data from your existing vehicles and then actually show you this in how our vehicles perform. Electric power analysis. This is about what is happening at your site. So don't take your site and just think, oh, that's great, I can just become an electric fleet overnight. You've got to work out and be sure that you've got enough power coming into your depot to be able to recharge the vehicles. So we actually go through that whole program with you as well. That then allows us to look at range analysis and giving you the confidence. And if you take the discovery program, that really backs all of this up. So in conclusion, what I would always say to people is plan, try, and then execute. The thing that you've got to remember if you are starting from a blank sheet of paper is today, if you decide that you want to go electric and you've done absolutely nothing on your infrastructure, then it can take anywhere between 6 to 18 months to get the electric supply and your chargers sorted out. So start planning today. There are lots of people that come to us and say, I want to buy 10 electric vans. I've decided, I've got board approval, that's what I want to do. They've done absolutely nothing in the infrastructure. We can give you vans, within weeks. But if you haven't sorted out your infrastructure, that's a bit pointless in doing so. Evaluation, implementation, we've got demonstrators, we've got the EV discovery program. Doesn't matter if you're a van or a tractor unit or anything else in between, try, because that's the only way you're really going to find out. And then once you've done all of that, sit down, and then we go through the execution of that. I said earlier, you're not the only one. We have a big board at Warwick, which is continually changing on the wall. I looked at it yesterday. No, was it Friday? Friday. And there were over 66 million kilometres of our customers travel just in the trucks alone. And we've saved, as a result, 61,200. I mean, that'll be higher today. So you're not the only ones doing this. Removals sector may be late to the party, but you are not the only. There's lots of big companies and smaller companies that have all gone through this up to this point, and more customers are coming on. So what I would say to you is embrace the new models of working together, open your minds to new way of thinking, new collaboration, new out of the box of the ways thinking. I was speaking with a customer on our stand at the back not I don't know, probably a couple of hours ago, to a gentleman who we were talking about EV infrastructure, and I said, yeah, there are other ways of skinning this cat, because some people, like the Stagecoach bus depots, have now fully electrified, and they're all going, well, between the hours of 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the buses are out doing what they do. Nobody's using the chargers. And if anybody wants to come in to use our chargers, yes, they'll charge you for the privilege, but that is a charging opportunity within that town. So different out of the box ways of thinking. So that is really just a bit of a whistle stop tour of decarbonisation and what's going on. You could talk about this for hours and hours and hours in minutiae detail. I think all I would say to you that are considering it is, you're not the first. Every vehicle we do as a brand comes as a zero emission vehicle. If you want to get ahead of the game within the removal sector and be able to try and future-proof your vehicle and your business, EV is, it's a proven way of going. And talk to us. There are other manufacturers out there that are also doing it, but certainly it's a way that's proven, and it will yield you not just fiscal benefits but environmental benefits as well. Right, any questions from the limited audience that we have?
Thank you so much, Grahame. That was fascinating. And thanks again for stepping in at the last minute.
No problem.
You touched on it just then, but the charging network. I mean, I've been an EV driver, and I can just wind into the services at Warwick and plug in at GridServe. I'm guessing it's slightly more complex even for a 3.5-ton vehicle.
Not for 3.5 tonners, but it certainly is for the large ones. So what we're now seeing is that there is a slowly growing network of HGV charge points. One of the things that I touched on, collaboration. So one of the things that's happening is some of the medium-sized distribution companies, so Welch's Transport, anyone that's near Duxford, Cambridge will know Welch's. They have 2 big chargers, 250 kilowatt chargers in their yard. What they are openly saying is, if you are an operator with an electric truck, whether it's a rigid or a tractor unit, and your driver is running short of electricity, then come into our yard. Yes, we'll charge you. It won't be the going rate, but it will be a rate substantially less than, say, a BP Pulse. And it's companies helping other companies. So there's almost a network appearing now above the network. And businesses like the Transport Association are clubbing together to do this. And I do think that I think this is something that the BAR could look at. Because if every BAR member, and ultimately I think that will come, but if every BAR member had an electric charge point or 2 or 3 in their yard, and a fellow BAR member, was running low, because one of the problems obviously with certainly vehicles of that size, or the Vitelis vehicle behind us, is that you go and park on a standard EV charge point and you really hack off 98% of all the other motorists because they can't get there. So you do need truck charging for trucks. So, and I know Matt's been a keen advocate of this in Destination Net Zero and how it is operating on too. But I think the bus and coach industry, which are already highly electrified, and the truck industry can actually work together, and help each other.
That's great stuff. Sounds lovely. And my background personally is marketing, and I've done tons of research into this, and I can tell you definitively, customers do want to be doing business with companies with eco-credentials. They may not be ready to pay more for that, but if we're hitting a point of price parity, it is a sales tool. It is definitely something that customers is much more likely to swing them in the way of a particular move over another.
I think this is one of the problems we've had as an industry. the people that have jumped first are the people that tend to have the biggest budgets and the biggest marketing. So your Tesco's, your Sainsbury's, your Marks and Spencer's, buying 5 or 6 electric vans, trucks or whatever is neither here nor there. It is very much a marketing thing. Now that there is price parity, the normal everyday haulier, logistics expert, removal company, waste company, whatever, is actually going, okay, I don't have that fiscal barrier of going. And I think the other thing is as we've gone on, the price, like all commodities, has actually come down, which has helped that price parity. And now that price parity is there, it's really taking out of the equation why you shouldn't do it, more why you should do it.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Hi, Grahame. I really enjoyed that. And having spent 30 years representing Stagecoach, I might feed that back into them and take credit for it, so forgive me. It's a question posed as a way of cranking in an observation about my company, PMD Finance. Are Renault assisting with the infrastructure costs, or would you flip that out to an outside provider?
Yes. Well, I could say yes on both of those. So yes, Renault Trucks Financial Services will finance the infrastructure. On the other side to that, if a customer goes with somebody like Zenobē will also fund that element. If I'm being completely transparent and open, which I always am, the biggest challenge isn't around finance, it's more around insurance. As an industry, the insurance companies are slow to actually catch up with technology. There is occasionally a reticence to actually do what they should do, and that has sometimes been a blocker. We've had customers with board approval, the political internal will, they've got the finance, and because they're not a Tesco who are self-insured, they go to their normal insurance and they go, ooh, that looks rather, no, and they go and create some crazy plucked out the air figure for insurance, and then everything gets rather muted. So I think what will happen ultimately is, and it's a difficult one, but I think you'll find that the OEMs will have to start almost providing their own insurance, whether it's a white label product or whatever, to try and again knock that little barrier down. It's not so much on vans, it's not a problem, but it's when you get, that picture there with the drawbar rig, demount bodies, is a chunky bit of money, and people are often, anything that's new, people take a step back, but we're working at it to do that. Sorry, you're looking at your watch going, get off!
It's just my job.
I'm waiting for the shepherd's crook to come out.
We started late, it's fine.
Sorry.
That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the information.
No worries.
Please, can we have a small but perfectly formed round of applause for Grahame?
Perfectly formed. Thank you. Thank you.